Hello, hello, hello. I hope you guys are doing awesome and welcome to the Psycho-Cybernetics module of the Spartan 1 program, as if you couldn't have more badass words strung together. So, Psycho-Cybernetics is a book written by a gentleman named Maxwell Maltz, and he was a plastic surgeon and he noticed something very interesting about his clients. So, oftentimes people would come in with a messed up nose or, some type of, ailment. And he noticed that certain individuals, when he fixed this, their entire life would change, right? So if they had basically like a crooked nose, they would now see themselves as like a better person and they'd go for better jobs and they'd basically, think that they were worthy of like getting the partner they wanted, and they'd have these radical external reality shifts based on just super simple minor alterations to their face, like not noticeable, basically like little nose adjustments or something. And then he'd have other people who were like literally, really disfigured, and he'd make them look great and their life would continue on the same trajectory. So what he diagnosed through his practice as a surgeon, basically who did all of these aesthetic procedures, was that everybody is governed by an internal self-image of themselves that essentially allows them or disallows them to take certain actions in life, right? So it's an internal self-image that we have of ourselves, which is rooted in our subconscious mind, which governs our decision-making process. And this is very important to understand, especially when it comes to fitness and health, because if we can optimize this internal subconscious self-image as someone who effortlessly is healthy, effortlessly has, kind of the physique they want, effortlessly loves to go to the gym, loves to eat healthy, to where we can eliminate a lot of resistance just because of the way that we intrinsically see ourselves, then we can basically leverage our mind to create the results that we want to in a more productive and leveraged way. So formation of your self-image really comes down to your childhood, right? So when you're younger, you're very impressionable. Until you're about 7 years old, you don't have any conscious guard of your mind, meaning that you're just a sponge. So you just absorb everybody else's information that they're pouring into you. You observe things around you as objective fact. You observe and you basically take in all of the habits, patterns, traits, and things of those people around you that you're most familiar with. So your self-image gets formed, and it's also reinformed through affirmation and repetition, right? So if your parents always tell you, hey, you're really good at math, you're really good at math, we'll go to the second aspect here. It can program your beliefs and your overall emotional state, which dictates your attitude towards something, right? So if you have a strong internal belief, and beliefs are just thoughts and repetitions that have been really programmed into you, that you're great at math because your parents have been telling you you're great at math, you did great on that one math test, everybody in the family got really excited, you found that every time you did good at math, everybody got excited, you identified as somebody who's really good at math, so for the rest of your life, you have a strong self-concept as somebody who's really good at mathematics, right? And as you go into upper classes like calculus or algebra, internally, you feel and know that you're good at math, so you'll take the action necessary to work through some of those harder concepts. Whereas vice versa, if you failed a math test and your stepdad came in with a belt and he's like, you are horrible at math, you'll never be good at math, and you just start internalizing it because until you're 7 years old, you don't really have any reasoning capabilities, you just kind of absorb everything. You may form a self-image of somebody who's very bad at math. And so every time you go into a math test, you get anxiety, right? And you're like, oh no, if I fail, this is going to be bad. Your self-image was negatively programmed towards, your proficiency at mathematics. So that formation is done primarily, your root self-concept is really built in the first 7 years of your life. And that has beliefs and attitudes associated with it that we'll carry with us for the rest of our lives until we decide to go in there and change that. Another part of Psycho-Cybernetics is your self-image is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the way that you see yourself and the way that your beliefs and your attitudes are in a certain dimension is what will replicate out in your experience, right? So anytime that you don't feel good enough, you may go into a job and the employer senses like, hey, this guy doesn't feel very good about himself. Like maybe we should hire Jim. He's a rock star, right? So self-fulfilling prophecy is important to understand because on the flip side of that, if we can positively really program in a self-image concept that is favorable in terms of being someone who is able to go and do the things that we would like to do effortlessly, meaning that there's not a lot of resistance there, meaning that that person sees themselves as someone who has a high likelihood of success in that dimension, then reprogramming that self-image is an important aspect of sustaining and amplifying results. So for goal achievement, right, if we have certain goals, what we would want to do in terms of getting an ideal self-image is to understand what version of ourselves would be able to hit these goals really effortlessly, right? So if it's a business goal, say you're going from $10,000 to $1 million a month, right? There are people doing $10,000 a month and there are people doing $1 million a month. So if our idea is that we want to be at the $1 million per month, we want to basically have a self-image of somebody who is doing that. And that self-image is somebody who's, probably way better at business, somebody who's way more leveraged in their activities, right? So we all have the same 24 hours in a day. That person is probably a manager of people. That person is probably in business for themselves. That person is probably, doing different inputs than a person who's operating at that $10,000 per month level, right? Not to say that, either of those are bad, but it's different types of imagery, right? You see yourself different. If you are trying to be the best at boxing versus someone who's just doing it to get in shape, you have two different self-images of yourself, right? Somebody may just, see themselves as someone in there who gets the satisfaction from working hard, getting the calories burnt, etc. The person who wants to be the best at boxing sees themselves as somebody who's knocking other people out in the ring, right? The calories and stuff like that aren't really part of their image. It's just a byproduct, right? They're really seeing themselves as somebody who's going in there to win. So having clarity on that self-image based on the goal achievement that we've set for ourselves is very important. And then as you go through and reprogram your self-image, what you basically want to do is have that chief aim of the version of yourself who is doing the things you want to do. And then you want to manage your higher faculties of mind on a daily basis as if you were that person. So imagination, reason, intuition, memory, logic, all of these different factors, right? All of these different thinking processes, we want to, bit by bit, as we're watching our mind throughout the day, start to modulate them as if we were thinking like the person who is doing the things that we want to do. And that's how we take a little bit of action internally. We take a little bit of action externally. We start, changing some dynamics around in our life to kind of embody that person more. And the more that we start to take small actions on that, and the more that we observe ourselves becoming that person, the more we anchor in that self-image, and the more our subconscious latches onto that. And the subconscious is everything because it's really 95% of our mind. So once our subconscious really buys in to us having a certain self-image, it's something that takes a little bit of effort to deprogram or change, right? Like if you have an assumption that you've held in your mind for 20 plus years, there's a lot of momentum behind that. So being able to program those assumptions to be hyper favorable allows us to really take big leaps in terms of our effectiveness and our capabilities in whatever realm or endeavor we choose to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed Psycho-Cybernetics. Definitely read the book, check it out. If you want more free courses and goodies, go ahead and check out SpartanOneElite.com. Cheers, guys. I'll see you in the next one.